Good morning there. Hope you're doing well. Tuesday, rainy here in Somerset. I've gone back on Twitter. Not sure how long it's going to last, but I wanted to see things. I just feel things are really going to pick up even more now. I don't know how you all feel. I've been having a few thoughts about some things. It's nothing new, but it doesn't have to be new. It's just kind of repeating these really things that have come up in the past that I think are constantly worth repeating personally. I just looked up this word because I was looking on Twitter and looking at some of the trolls on there. Well, whether you call them trolls or not, I've thought of a new word in relation to this this witch hunt and witch finding, witch burning, if they could. The tricoteurs in the French Revolution. There happened to be, or I don't know if they were, all women knitting as people's heads were being chopped off. Sort of seeing it as an entertainment, really. No, it's not to do with men, women. It's just, these trolls, many of them are men and some are women. It doesn't really matter gender and all that stuff. But they're kind of tricoteurs, if that's how you pronounce it. Plural. Tricoteurs with an S on the end. Tricoteurs. Somebody help tell me if I've got saying that wrong. But so Snowden is a tricoteur with a PhD in economics from the University of Buckingham. It doesn't matter, and somebody might be called Your Pope. There's one on there called Your Pope, and that's just I don't know what that is, but it's somebody like seeing the execution as an entertainment, and they want to see more of it, and they just want to see more blood, and they're enjoying it. So that's the level there, and they're not. They're always going to be with us. They will always be with us, like death and taxes, I think the phrase is. They're always going to be with us. Or maybe not taxes necessarily, depending on what happens. But I'm deflecting a bit. I was just thinking little things today, and it's nothing new. And a lot of this is relevant to Dr. Peter Hayes' incredibly scholarly overview of how the miscarriage of justice of Lucy Letby relates to the practices of centuries past in which witchcraft was seemingly more prevalently believed in. I don't think it's really gone away in terms of these suspicious beliefs, actually. Not at all. It's just changed form, but it's also probably still there in its old form as well. But it just cloaks itself in something new, and it can cloak itself. But yeah, I'll link that. I'll link it in the description bar. Dr. Peter Hayes, who was I met him, and he's a wonderful guy, and but a brilliant lecture, really, very scholarly and very thought through, as opposed to what I'm just doing sort of off the cuff thing. But I was thinking about this thing that it shouldn't work and it shouldn't make sense, but what they've effectively done is like vomit all over the floor. And I don't want to be too graphic. It's either vomiting or it's sort of defecating. Now, what do I mean by that? So the consultants, with all that poisonous dynamic, and it's not just the consultants. Clearly, this is was it Maisie? And I haven't seen the Netflix, but I'm gathering that Maisie that realised that it was a poisonous unit, including some of the nurses as well, who weren't friendly and didn't want them there, and was already freezing Lucy out to some extent. I know she had some friends there, though, didn't she? Anyway, because I haven't seen the documentary, that's the impression I've got from that. It wasn't just the doctors; it was the whole thing. Either you're going to fit there or you're not going to fit there, and it was toxic. It was poisonous. And they say the fish rots from the head, don't they? So there's something about the energy of that group of doctors which ensured that toxicity. And they'd be all chummy with the ones that they wanted and liked and thought that they could rely on to cover up their mistakes primarily, and suck up to them in some way. But people who were really did put the babies first, the patients and obviously the parents first, well, those consultants really didn't like that. And so that attitude permeated down through the nurses who had, whether they'd always been that way or not, some of them were probably sucking up to those consultants. That's the impression I'm getting. I might be wrong about that. It wasn't a clear. I don't think it was a clear division between a group of bullying consultants and a group of frightened nurses. I don't think it was. But I'm not saying about anybody individual. And I don't know where Karen Rees fits into this. Maybe it's almost like all these undercurrents are going on all the time, but I'm drifting away from what I want to say, really. They vomited on the floor, so that's the vomit of all their bullying natures and the bullying environment that they've created, primarily from through the medical line, through the doctor's line, the consultants. They vomited over the floor their so-called suspicion, the drawer of doom. See, even that, the drawer of doom, and I believe it actually existed, and then Brewery lied about that in Thirlwall, and Jayaram lied about it as well. Karen Rees told the truth in the interview she gave, that it did exist, because he told her about it. Now, what was in it, God knows, but, it existed as an idea. It's the fact that it's an idea, but that idea is redolent. It's redolent of something to do which is non-scientific, isn't it? It's about suspicion. It's about something that would fit into the world of, finding, persecuting, hunting witchcraft, witches, and pricking them, dunking them in the water, looking for familiars. It's that kind of world. The drawer of doom is something that Matthew Hopkins might have figuratively had. You might have had like a saddlebag as you rode a horse, I believe. Matthew Hopkins, the witch hunter. Played by Vincent Price, I think, in a film. Would have had a saddlebag of doom, which are basically the cases that he's heard about, and somebody have sent him this bit of parchment or whatever it was written on, and it's just like, oh, this person down this lane lived in this ramshackle cottage, did such and such. When you need to establish whether this isn't a case of witchcraft or not. So we got the vomiting up of all that dark, and this is bad thought, bad energy, bad energy, like a vomit of that group of doctors, with the junior doctors sucking up to the higher ones and joining in, and actually kind of exposing their kind of sadistic nature by joining in with the nurse death, things like that. But as many people have said, and I've said continually as well, and I totally believe, the intention was, you need to go. Your face doesn't fit here. In the sort of satirical song I did, Dead-Eyed Steve, he says, your face doesn't fit here, and that's exactly what it was. I mean, what that means essentially is not just about her face, it's about the fact she's got an attitude to her work that is not working for them. Yes, and the increase of the deaths is happening, it's a real thing. But that's magnifying the difference in nature between that group of doctors and who Lucy Letby is. So it's a perfect storm of that. So they're vomiting up that, and then they vomit that up to the police, who seem to be quite interested in hearing a bunch of vomit and looking at it and thinking, we can use that. All that vomit you've just vomited. I'm sorry, it's very graphic, but that's what it is. There's nothing there other than it's something kind of dead, and it's got nothing of sustenance in it. It's disgusting, It's something that shouldn't be there in front of you. But the police don't see it that way. They think, oh, that's interesting. That's warming the cockles of our heart. We can work with that. And then somehow, and we don't know how this works. It shouldn't work other than by some evil plan in a way. And I think there is much more to it. How Evans, who is the witch hunter character of centuries past, he's a person out of time. He's a person from centuries ago, and we haven't. Or another way of saying that is such individuals, such people of such natures, disturbed and disturbing and dark natures, usually with covered with a mask of apparent respectability. He's a doctor. Well, who was Matthew Hopkins? He was apparently respected in his time, by certain people. And also some of the people pointing out witches in the villages and towns of the 1600s. Some of those would have been respected, or feared. It's back to that bullying dynamic. So I don't want to make too much heavy weather of this, but Evans's reports are another vomit. It's just another vomit. It's just or defecation on the floor. That's the quality of it. It's literally that. It's utterly, like Judge Jackson says, it's utterly worthless. What do you do with vomit? You're not going to keep it around, are you? You're just going to get rid of it. That's what it was. And yet the CPS and the police, that's good enough for them as well, out of their ignorance, because they're not going to want to challenge it, because if they challenged it, it's working against them getting they're glory hunters, these police. They don't care who's guilty or innocent. They're just seeing this as a glory hunting opportunity. So they accept all that vomit, and then it gets codified and brought to the CPS, and they create this hugely expensive fake investigation, which is not an investigation at all, leading to this trial, very expensive again. Got this thug in a wig, Johnson, but it's all vomit. It's all, or it's all defecation. It's literally that. And then, because of the way it's presented and masked with people with a bunch of experts, so-called experts, that are testifying on behalf of the vomit, and shame on them, because they're all party to it. It doesn't matter whether any individual prosecution expert said all I did was come and talked about the blood. All I did was talked about x-rays. No, because you're party to it, you're party to all of it, actually, because you know why you're there. And you should know why you're there. And if you've read Evans's reports and you don't get it, you don't get what that is, that it's just a vomit of lies and insanity and kind of malice and evil, actually. Why is it evil? Because he's intent on creating a murderer and creating a witch, on fabricating a witch. Go back to Dr. Peter Hayes's very scholarly and very interesting lecture for much more detail on that. The corollaries between, what's just happened in the 21st century here and 400 or 500 years ago. But nonetheless, so because all those apparent experts, and they're all party to it, they're all partly guilty of this, of the witch hunting. They can't not be. I don't care how small the role they play is. It's an essential role for the whole of it. And then this gets the jury is totally overwhelmed with this because of the mask that's been put over it. It's like they put a mask of rectitude and a mask of power, essentially, to overwhelm the jury. But behind the mask, you take it off, and it's all like this rotting face. It's this rotting face, vomit, rotting face, defecation. It's just worthless, poisonous rubbish, which was started from that poisonous group of individuals at that hospital, in that trust, who wanted an individual colleague gone, not to be there. Solely that would have been enough for them. That would have been enough for them to get out some of their bile, some of their nastiness, and some of their, because they knew it was all going wrong, and they've got to blame somebody for that, not themselves. They haven't got the guts to say we shouldn't be operating as a level 2. They haven't got the guts to say we shouldn't be taking these babies and draw a line in the sand there. They haven't got the guts to say we should be closed down until we get rid of the Pseudomonas and the pipes need fixing. We can't open at all again at any level until all that's done. None of them have got the guts to say that. And you've obviously got to consider that that's partly the management's responsibility as well. And none of them are essentially taking responsibility. None of them are, neither the management nor the consultants, for the state and the dangerousness of the unit. So now we come to this paradox. What needs to happen subsequent to that? And then Lucy Letby gets convicted because the jury is just overwhelmed with this mask that looks absolutely, well, it's like a mask of power. And they just go, God, yeah, look at the power of all these consultants and Dr. Evans, look at all these reports, and the other side is bringing nothing. Myers made some arguments, but it's nothing. The coding of it, the encoding of it is power versus kind of a weak kind of like a feeble. That's how they hear it. It's kind of feeble. Because they're going like, well, we've just had all this power coming at us in terms of 8, 9 people with all these credentials. All on the same page, all linking up to this, what is actually just a pile of shit on the ground, all collectivizing around that. But they don't see the shit. The jury don't see the shit. They just see the credentials. They hear the credentials. And on the other side, they hear this kind of squeaking, like a little tiny squeaking saying, it's not really fair. It's not. And they, the paradox now is that everything subsequent to that, and trying to get this evil process and this evil calamity overturned and rectified, is that you've got to build. You're required to build a city of shining crystal, absolutely perfect in every regard, and you've got to do that to overturn a turd on the floor. The justice system said, no, the turd won. The Court of Appeal, the whole justice system, the mentality of it is saying the turd got through us. It got through the system. And the jury was convinced by the turd. It's not going to use those terms, but that is what's happened. The turd, the system can allow just this pile of shit on the floor to create all these convictions for murders that didn't even occur. Just a pile of shit can do that. And to try to rectify it, you have to build a city of absolute, pellucid, beautiful crystal, absolute truth and science, to even have a chance of taking on this turd in the minds of the justice system as a whole, the people who administrate it. So they're sort of essentially saying, and even then, their system is so, I don't know if corrupt's the right word, it's so malignant. It's so, I don't want to say medieval, because I don't even know what the medieval terms are like. We might have been told lies about that. But it's so rotten. Well, you could say it's rotten. It's so ignorant. It's dumb, but deliberately so. It's not a bug. It's a feature. The stupidity. Back to Dietrich Bonhoeffer's concept of stupidity. The stupidity of the so-called justice system, the Court of Appeal, and the processes that they enact, and the limitations they put on the ability to get something back, to be looked at again, is not a bug, it's a feature. It's been written in there. It's meant to be like that. Power's decided it's meant to be like that. And it's meant to be administrated by people that don't care that it's like that. And that's exactly what they do. So that's the paradox that you've got, and that justice system is saying, well, yeah, okay, we can even recognize, we won't tell you in front of everyone else that what you've got is you've got a city of shining truth there, made out of absolute clear, beautiful crystal, ornate towers carved in it, the best experts in the world, and everything is understood, even though you should never have been required to do that, to create the concept of reasonable doubt. There was never any reasonable suspicion. There was never any reasonable suspicion of crimes having actually occurred. Ever. Never any reasonable suspicion of crimes, let alone any reasonable suspicion that Lucy Letby had committed any crimes. So I'm moving away from what I'm trying to say here. So the justice system as deliberately obtuse. Well, it's not stupid, you see. As I say, it's deliberate. It's all deliberate. This is what power is. Deliberate obtuseness, and that's what Dietrich Bonhoeffer's talking about. This external powers in ensuring that kind of stupidity, and it's more, as he says, it's more dangerous than malice. But there is malice in there as well, I think, because it's about an attitude to the individual citizen, really, isn't it? And what that essentially means is, if you're pointed out for whatever reason, you go through that system and it condemns you, too bad, because you're worthless in our eyes. You're worthless in our eyes. And that's why someone, an apparatchik of power, such as Lady Thirlwall, can deem everything that she's heard and is aware of about these cries, these cris de coeur of Lucy Letby's obvious innocence as noise. She determines that as noise, because she determines us as just nothing but noise makers. Brutish in a sense, but whereas she is a learned person, of course, and is much higher up, just a creature of the establishment and of power. So I keep going off where I want to get to, but where I want to get to is the deliberately obtuse, brutish, actual brutish justice system, which is what it is. It's brutish. And it's just about power, is essentially wanting to say to you, well, okay, even if we acknowledge you've got this shining city of truth, and we can acknowledge that what got Lucy Letby 15 full life tariffs is literally like a shit on the floor or a vomit on the floor, and that Evans's reports scientifically, medically are a vomit and worthless and just disgusting. It worked. It did it. And you should have had, moreover, you should have had your shining crystal city to overturn it in 2022. You should have had it all ready to go. Why didn't Lucy Letby call it? Why didn't she have the ability to call 30 world-class experts then? Too bad you get that chance. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to see it. We're not going to speak about it because you didn't have your shining crystal city of truth to overturn this fucking vomit on the floor then. You didn't have it then. And she should have done it then. How should she have done it? From prison, in a state of PTSD, medicated, destroyed, life destroyed, heartbroken, shattered, captured, kidnapped for years already. And she should have managed. She should have had the reason. This is what the justice system is saying, so-called justice system. It's not anything to do with justice. They're saying Lucy should have had the resources, both financial and psychological and mental and intellectual, to ensure that Shu Lee and that panel were there on that day and through those days in that court and arranged it. She should have ensured that Myers got them as well. And because she didn't do that, then the justice system says, well, you had your chance then. Now, all this is plainly and utterly evil. I mean, this is why that justice system is run by evil, in the same way that there was an evil strain and an evil dynamic in that neonatal unit from the top, in terms of Breary, Jayaram, this ghastly twosome, you know. And then other people coming. Gibbs is the ultimate in this kind of weak, cowardly element that makes these kind of tiny noises about, oh, do you think we should be doing this? And then he feels the power. He feels the malignant power from someone like Brewer, and he goes, yeah, okay, I'll shut up. Yeah, we should be doing it. Yeah, of course we should. And that's exemplified in his kind of, he's a very, very odd guy, Gibbs, very weird, but it's out of the most disgusting weakness and cowardice. And we can all be weak and I've been weak and cowardly, and I'll always be ashamed of those elements, and I should be, but I haven't got anybody put in prison for lifetime tariffs, but Gibbs has. He's party to that. And his thing, it wasn't a gang of 4, it's a gang of 7. So I mean, there's no moral line. The idea that he's becoming a vicar or a priest is absolutely insane, isn't it? I mean, it just shows either there's something deeply wrong with the church that would consider him, and there's certainly something so incredibly wrong with him that it's like he's got no moral bearings whatsoever. I was going to do a separate video about that, but I know I'm going on too long now, but it's just, and people have made this comment, is that he's not saying tiny, tiny doubt, is he? He's saying tiny, tiny guilt. Now, even if it is an atom of guilt, even if it's an electron of guilt, why would you have any guilt at all? You only feel the guilt once it's been established, haven't you? No, it's a hint that he knows. He's kind of telling us, I think, that he knows, and I know that they know. I know that they all know, intuitively. I just do. They all know that Lucy Letby is innocent. Every police officer involved in it knows it. CPS knows it. Government knows. The Wed Streeting thing knows it. They all know it. But that doesn't matter. They achieved this injustice, and now they don't want the look of it being reverted. That's what it's about. And maybe there are other reasons for how they're utilizing it, how they wanted to weaponize it. But then, being what they are, power generally, they eventually when there is an exoneration, they'll weaponize that in some way as well, against the people, essentially, against our rights, whether it's about limiting jury trials, or making changes which would badly affect us in terms of neonatal care. It's hard to know, but they would utilize it in the negative way, absolutely. Let me just pause a minute. My voice is going. I'm just going to look at my notes here. So I realise we're in Lucy Letby, any defence that she has, all of us on the side of truth and rightness and fairness and decency, we're put in this totally false position in which people are asking us and asking Mark MacDonald and asking Lucy, essentially. It's all about, well, you give us evidence as to why you didn't do it. You give us evidence as to why these aren't murders. You give us evidence. You, the accused, the convicted, the condemned, give us evidence why they were not murders. Give us evidence why you didn't do it. Now, what is that in opposition to? It's in opposition to, this is the bizarreness of it, because they have never themselves produced any evidence that any murders took place at all. It's all a chimera. It's a mirage. It's a conjuring trick. It's a great lie made out of many small lies. It is that vomit. It is that defecation. Sorry, it's a bit graphic, but so what they produced to create this conviction wasn't weak evidence. It wasn't just falling short of any beyond reasonable doubt test. It was utterly nothing. It was the opposite of, it was, as I say, a series of small lies creating a big lie. But now the onus is on you, back to that shining crystal city of truth and science and perfection almost. You've got to create perfection to overturn what? Nothing. Another way of talking about the vomit is that it's worthless. It's nothing. It's a zero. You've got to create a huge sum, a perfect number, a very large perfect number, to overturn zero. We're trying to overturn zero in an existential sense. They've made zero into a fact of all these acts. They've turned zero and nothing into the fact, the legal fact of all these acts, and the bad actor, the serial killer having done that. They've created this complete fiction and overlaid it like a palimpsest, I think the word is that. Put it over Lucy Letby's face, and they're using her face and body, but it's you could peel it away, and then that's that wonderful young woman from a lovely family, a loving family, who are so proud of her underneath it, and they've done that. They put that over the top of her, and that's the worst one of the worst female serial killers ever. So what are people like Moritz and Coffee, and cause I always forget Coffee, but he's a weird kind of guy, as well. They all are. They all are. I mean, and it's never. You see, you got your Liz Hull and Caroline Cheetham, and they're one thing, and they're kind of trickoteuses, but there's something different about Moritz and Coffee, and it's the BBC link, because there's lying, there's outright mendacity, there's like super level of lying, and then there's BBC level of lying, and there's something there to do with that as well, because of what the BBC is. It's part of the power structure, part of the deep state. So it's not just a happenstance that the BBC employee that has been put into this has this attitude towards this, as opposed to being on the side of obviously seeing that this is a clearly innocent person that has been totally railroaded and persecuted as if she were a witch, actually. I'm going on way too long here because I've got other notes. I'll just do it all in one go, and if it's too long, then it's too long. But nobody has to watch any of my videos. I'm just saying that because it's weird, isn't it, really, because people say, when it's too... Anyway, it's just... You do videos, and it's just for you to just say what out into the world, and if anyone picks it up, they pick it up, don't they? And I love all the comments and everything. And it's not about loving comments, but it's about valuing them and all the arguments that are being made. What I'm saying is, if anybody wants to switch off anything, they just do anyway, don't they? They don't even hear you saying, if you want to switch off, just do. I've got to get all that kind of mindset out of my mind. If somebody left a comment a week ago, whatever, says, you're wasting my life. No, you're wasting your own life then. Nobody makes you listen to a video. You're wasting your life. That's fine. I can accept that. You think that's a waste of your life. Well, don't do it. Stop doing it then. Stop wasting your life and listening to videos you don't want to, that you feel is wasting your life. Anyway, that's a side thing. It's not important at all. So what have I written here? Yeah, it's this paradox that you have to build a world of unimpeachable truth. You have to get to the bottom of everything, even though, as Dr. McConville says, there are strange things in medicine where you don't know exactly which mechanism and what essentially was the cause that tipped an individual biological system, a body, a human being into death, exactly the order of it, or what was the most prevalent thing. Medicine doesn't know everything, obviously, clearly doesn't. And it's this intention to believe that, someone like Evans, the way he speaks, it's as though he does. And it's just, everyone else around that knows that. Every consultant, well, I don't know now. I was going to say every consultant at the Countess of Chester that was there then, Gibbs, he's retired, whatever, priest and all that nonsense. I'm not talking about everyone who's a priest. I'm just talking about him, because he's obviously a complete hypocrite, and he doesn't know the first thing about being moral, clearly, and he's happy to be that way. A wolf in sheep's clothing. Beware them. Jesus would have kicked his ass. Gibbs, I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm losing my way here. So yeah, you've got to build a world of absolute unimpeachable truth to overturn nothing, a zero. I've said that already. The paradox is that this nothing, this vomit, this defecation on the floor, has got through the system and is tricked and overwhelmed 12 ordinary people. Those people, why should we expect them to be able to see behind that mask, to realize it's all nothing? Because how could we expect that of them? I don't see how we could have expected that of them at all. I've already done this bit. It said all the prosecution experts are party to the witch-finding element by virtue of simply being there. Doesn't matter the degree to which they've added something. They've all added by being there with these credentials after their names. Sally Kinsey, whoever it is, just by being there, they're part of the witch-finding element, witch hunt, the persecution. They're part of it because they're part of the grand ruse to overwhelm the jury by all these names rocking up and supporting a piece of lump of shit on the ground, and they've just done it. They've done it for money, and these individuals have done it for money. But more importantly, they've not cared what they're part of. They've not cared, because if they had sight of the reports, and they should have read them, and if they knew about medicine, they'd say this is all fucking rubbish what this Evans has done. Or if they didn't have the skills to know that, then that's another problem, isn't it? They're just useful idiots then. Evans is an individual out of time, from a different time. There's a word for that, I can't think of what it is now. He's an anachronism, or he's atavistic. He's from a period from many centuries ago. But it's not as simple as that in a way, because they're always here. So they're not really literally from another time. They're a type. He's a type of individual, a type of malignant energy, malignant, dangerous energy that's always there. So they were there. So when the witch-finding craze was boiling and coming up through the surface, they were there almost in waiting as a psychological, malignant type of human being or psychopath or whatever you want to call them, that was ready to go when the circumstances allowed them to go into operation, and then they would be the witch hunter, or they'd be at the tribunal, and then they would say, look, oh, that witch that woman floated, and so she's obviously a witch, all that kind of thing. I'm going on too long now, and Meadows and Southall are exactly the same. They are there. They could have been from the 1600s. It's not about the 1600s, because 1600s is the time of Shakespeare as well. So obviously not everyone's like that. It's a time of great. It's a linguistic pinnacle in many other ways, but there's these other forces are there all the time, So maybe it's not an equivalent, but there's all of us, and then there's these rotten tricketers, these trolls on Twitter that just want to pile more torture on Lucy Letby, to pile more torture on innocents. But what this shows even more so, that you can have an Evans, a Meadows, and a Southall within this quote-unquote justice system, is that the justice system has not advanced one iota, not one jot, not one tiny atom has it advanced since the days in which people could be accused of being witches and then being burned or hanged. I think hanging was more prevalent in the UK. It wasn't the UK then, was it? In Britain. I think they burned more. I mean, it's just hideous to say, it's burned more witches in Germany and certain other European countries. Hanging was the more prevalent method of execution, torture, murder, sorry, the method of murder that they used. That's what it was, the method of murder they used then for innocent people who had been accused of being witches. And more importantly, obviously, there wasn't the same kind of policing system, but there was a system of usually bigger men that who were there paid, to restrain people and then bring them in to the justices and then to the people who were in charge of finding witches. They were those physical kind of heavies, basically. The heavies were there, and the heavies now are the police. Kind of, they're still there. It's still the same thing, and that brute energy, essentially, that brute energy hasn't advanced since those days either. Not an atom has it advanced, because you can see this, and it's, in a way, it's helpful to have someone like Hughes and the physiognomy of Hughes, the way he looks. Although somebody could have that look exactly like Hughes and could be on the side of absolute justice. It's not to do with how you look at all, but it kind of does fit in with it a little bit. But it's not the point at all. And you could have had like someone who looks like a geek running Operation Hummingbird, or someone who looked like some kind of professor, or someone who looks like a monk. It doesn't really matter. It's their energy. It's a brute energy. And the brute energy of the heavies of the past, Beadles, they might have called them, now Cheshire Police, wherever it is in the country, same energy, hasn't advanced at all, just because they're sitting in front of a computer pretending to look at it in a Netflix film, or doing Facebook searches and calling themselves digital forensic officers. Utterly absurd. And all that is apparent. It's crazily long, this video now. All that is massively apparent through the Hummingbird video, how utterly fake it all is, that these people have any professionalism whatsoever. That they do look and they do sound very, very stupid. And that's because they are. And I do want to remember what Dietrich Bonhoeffer says. It doesn't mean they're stupid in other areas of their life. One of them might be quite good at carpentry or something, whatever it happens to be. But in the jobs that they've been given and that they've had and that they've got and the power that they've got, they're utterly, utterly stupid. And they're meant to be. So the computers mean nothing. It's the same energy as many centuries ago. It's just the trappings. It's just the trappings. The last thing I wanted to do, I might as well go for it all and just finish it off. Think of, and it was more women. It wasn't just women that were accused of being witches. I've looked at quite a lot of things, and there were quite a lot of men as well. But preponderance were women, obviously. Well, not obviously, they just were. So let's just say in a village or small town, there's a woman, usually older, but not necessarily, a kind of an outcast, thought of as strange because they're a bit of a loner. But they had some skills. Maybe they were a midwife at the time. Maybe they knew something about. They were a bit of a. They knew something about like simples, how to make curatives from plants and herbs and stuff like that. But maybe some people found them very helpful. Maybe they were. That's the point. They probably were very helpful. But either way, the collective nature of a lot of human beings is to try to look for outcasts, create people that they want to scorn or look down upon or persecute. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. With the species, not everyone, but quite a lot of them. But back to that kind of environment in the Countess of Chester hasn't changed from a village in Essex somewhere in 1580. It hasn't changed. Same dynamic there as in a neonatal unit in Cheshire in 2015. Same dynamics working. Doesn't matter if people can read, can't read here. And then these people are consultants, same dynamics. And we're fooling ourselves if we think, oh, that can't be the case, I think. So you've got this individual that's as an outcast within that village, small town environment, say a large village back in the 1580s. In that area, a woman probably of higher they're all going to be of higher standing than her in status, because she's kind of like the bottom of the social hierarchy. a woman has a miscarriage, loses a child, and then a small child dies of a fever. This is over a period of, like, I don't know, 13 months, should we say? 13 months. Think about that period in time. And then a barn suddenly goes on fire and destroys everything that was in the barn. And then another thing happens as well, is a whole bunch of pigs die. You know, there was a litter of pigs, and 8 of them, they all die, and then the mum dies, the sow. So all that's happened, and this lady, maybe an older lady, she's been walking around these lanes, she's been collecting some things like that. And maybe she collected some acorns one day, you know, and she kept some acorns, and they were acorns from, actually, they were from the field within which the pigs were in a sty or something. So, you know, she collecting those acorns are the handover notes, essentially. Yeah, maybe she shouldn't have taken those acorns home, and it's weird why she's got acorns from someone else's field where the pigs were that died. But yeah, that's going to end up as part of the proof that it was her that killed the pigs by the witchcraft. This is done much better by Peter Hayes. I'll link him below, but it's just what I'm thinking on the hoof here. She's later bewitched those pigs, and she's known to talk to herself and mutter, really. And so, but people impute that these are curses. They're always curses if someone's muttering, if she's muttering. This lady is walking along the lanes, and those mutterings are, you can have an equivalent there of Lucy Letby's Facebook searches. She's doing that to kind of curse the people, or to kind of revel in the idea of their misfortune, the small child dying. And maybe this old lady back in the 1580s passed the small child as the child's being walked with a mum, and gave it an evil glare like that. And that's what's created the child to fall into a fever and die. So it doesn't matter what it is, collecting acorns, giving a funny look, talking to yourself. All of these have got these modern corollaries, these modern comparisons, which are Facebook searches, which are I'll move on to the counselling notes, which are the acorns are taking home something, some handover notes, which in and of themselves, okay, you can say, well, I don't want you taking the acorns from a tree in my field. Okay, in other words, we're gonna say it's a bit of a disciplinary thing, even though loads of other nurses, hundreds and hundreds, they're all saying they're taking home the handover notes, and it's just, but essentially, even if Lucy Letby had 14,000 handover notes there, none of that, as Chris has said and many other people said, none of that's got anything to do with intended harm. It's all misdirection, obviously, in the same way as the old lady in the 1580s taking some acorns from a field in which some pigs sicken and die, a whole litter dies, and it's the acorns what done it, and the acorns are the trophy of the witch killing those pigs, in the same way that in a sick, twisted witch-finding mentality that has not gone away at all, the handover notes are the trophy, or the talisman of the modern witch, Lucy Letby, that she enjoys looking over, and she's got them, even though the vast majority of them have nothing to do with the babies that have died or had crashes. So blah blah. We know what we're talking about. It's all monstrously wrong and insane. Just getting on to the counselling notes. You know, Lucy Letby's outpouring of grief, of pain, the cri de coeur, going on to paper, kind of whether she'd been advised to do it or not. I've done that kind of stuff. I've got files written about kind of stuff about my inner thoughts. That if a crime happened near me, and somehow the brutish beadles, the police that are now, that were the heavies of old, and they're the heavies of the current day, just come in and find that file, and they say, well, oh, you've written this. That might mean that you had something to do with this, with no extra evidence needed to tie it in, no reality needed, just this, we'll just tie it in together. So I was just going to say, going back to the lady of the 1580s, walking around the fields, muttering, taking acorns, whatever, an outcast to a certain degree. The version that she's got of that is when she's in the witch trial. It's when she's being tried, and she knows all the townsfolk around her. The trickoteurs are there, enjoying it, maybe throwing things at her as she's sitting there like in a shawl. And she like whimpers and cries out, and it's like this cry of pain from inside, from a shattered individual that had been turned on by the whole community. That's the equivalent of the counselling notes. And somebody can be so broken down and so full spectrum condemned and attacked that they begin to be so broken that they say, well, maybe I am guilty, because they all say I'm guilty, that they all hate me so much. Maybe I am hateful because they all hate me. I shouldn't be here. I should die. But then the other voice comes in, but I haven't done anything wrong. But they say I've killed them, so I must be worthless. If they say I'm bad, I'm bad. You can see how someone can be totally broken down to say all those things. But in order to see that, you have to have an imagination. You have to have some empathetic imagination. And the trickoteurs is either they haven't got an imagination at all, or their imagination is totally directed towards, in this instance, towards willfully going with the line of injustice, of torture. It's an outlet for them, of some kind of sadistic outlet in which they can actually enjoy what's happening to someone who's innocent. I didn't think this would be that long. If anyone has stayed the course and listened to this video, thank you very much. I haven't prepared anything other than a few notes for it, but I'm not going to make any excuses. I've been doing this for a long time now, and this is how I do it. And either people get something out of it or they don't, but whoever it is. But love you all, beautiful people, but not the trickoteurs, and not the people who want to torture innocent people and continue it, and not the system of power that we've got currently that would want to allow this to happen. You'll always have a witch finders in the world waiting for the opportunity, like an Evans or a Southall or a Meadows. They'll always be there. We have to build structures in which they cannot operate, in which they cannot be utilised, so that an Evans cannot get there. But then, you see, you had a Judge Jackson that recognised and saw and knew and had the opportunity to see a character like an Evans, like a witch hunter from the 1600s. He saw him and he told Goss who he was. But then you have a Goss, and a Goss is another one of those characters of those days gone by. I keep talking about the past as I'm putting that down, but I'm not, because it's all here. It's all still here. So it's not about looking down on the past or the people or the cultures of the past. It's the point I'm making is that it hasn't changed, and that's what we're seeing. It's not we've reverted to something of a lower level or nature. It's just that we're here and we're probably as bad. It's just got a different clothing to it. In some ways it's worse because it's dressed up in more masks. So you've got this Goss character who is a facilitator of the witch finder. So he's essentially he's right up there in terms of responsibility, Goss, in this. Which in the satirical thing, the master of deviance. And so all of this is about deviance. Not in the accused, but in every one of the accusers is the absolute epitome of deviance in all of them, in terms of justness, in terms of rightness, in terms of morality, deviance all the way through it. Thank you very much, and have a good Tuesday. Bye.